In this episode, you will learn the little-known ways to use astrophysics to convert to Islam, so you can find the answers to religion. Today's guest is Laura Garbers, and she felt empty after her daughter passed away. Learn how Islam helped her to find meaning in it, so you can also find the meaning of your problems in life. Also, there is no need to continue being constricted by Christianity. Laura explains how Islam gave her freedom in religion and worship. Laura is 42 years old and converted to Islam 2 years ago in 2018. She is from New Orleans and currently lives in Germany.
All right. Firstly, was it hard to convert?
No, it wasn't hard to convert at all, or revert, whatever the best term is.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out.
I wasn't really looking for Islam. I was searching for my daughter, who had passed away earlier in 2018, before I reverted, and I was searching for her.
Sure, that's so difficult.
Yeah, it is. And through my search for her, I became more faithful and more connected with God, with Allah. And I think it was just automatic that when I found her and when I found God in this deeper sense, then Islam just came right after that to my life through all of the research and studies that I was doing at that point in time. So for me, it was just like a big a deepening of faith and a realization of what's out there, and a part of that was a new religion, and it all just came together for me at that point in my life.
Oh yeah, okay. So I guess that answers my next question, which was, why did you become Muslim? There was a crisis in your life. What religion were you, or were you any particular religion before you became Muslim?
Yes, I was raised Catholic. Part of my mother's family was very Catholic. We have nuns and bishops and priests in the family. My father was raised in an atheistic family, so they had a kind of a difficult time relating. And I gave up that religion for about 10 years. From the time when I was a teenager until my mid-20s, I was not Catholic, but I returned to Catholicism in my mid-20s until I was 40, which was in 2018 when I lost my daughter. And it was through that crisis and through, my search for her, my soul, in my soul and in the universe, that I found her, and I found a deeper sense of my connection with God, and that's when I made the switch from Catholicism to Islam.
So, tell us about your quest for Islam. What research did you do?
Well, honestly, at first it was, where is my daughter now? That was the question. And from that, I started researching about astrophysics and how the universe functions on a very scientific level. And I was particularly put off by a priest, because Hannah passed away on a very significant moon day, January 21st of 2018. There was a very significant moon event the night of her death. And I asked him about that, and he said, don't look to the moon. That will lead you to sin. And that kind of struck me, like, I can't look to the natural world for answers about what happened. And I found a particular song when I was researching about, or wanting to find spiritual links to the moon. I found the song, The White Moon, rose over us
Mm-hmm.
and it was on Merciful Servant. And I thought it was just the most beautiful song. And it was I think first through that song that I started listening to the Nasheed on
Mm-hmm.
Merciful Servant. And I don't know, it just opened up. It was like my religion became
Mm-hmm.
unuseful. And I found a useful religion that could tie my daughter and God to me in a way that I really needed at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was
Yeah.
I found it first through the Nasheed, and I felt closer to my daughter. I felt closer to God. I felt closer to nature in general,
Sure.
because that's what I was looking to find her. And it was particularly powerful through those Nasheeds and the prayers that I found online.
I found it very interesting that you bring up astrophysics and science as a reason to that kind of led you toward Islam. I just find that very interesting. What in particular about astrophysics was it that said, that Islam is what part of astrophysics spoke to you? I mean, I'm just curious how to tie in astrophysics, because I would never have made those connections myself. Although I do know the Quran does have a lot of scientific information in it that is backed up by science today.
Yes, it does. And in particular, I think the idea of God and of time being something that's infinite and something that doesn't ever go away. It's always there. And I felt very deep. I was praying to God and I wanted to know, where is my daughter? Is she gone? And the answer was always, no, she's not gone. Like, well, if I know she's not gone and I'm praying to Allah and
Mm-hmm.
Allah that she's not gone, then where is she?
Mm-hmm.
Because I could feel her and I could even feel her moving further away, but she was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a very scientific way, space-time is something that is always present. It doesn't disappear. And when scientists talk about the beginning of the universe and how it all happened, it's not just a theory about how it all started or where we're all headed. It's something they're actually physically looking at. They're looking at the beginning of space-time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
so, yeah, so I know that through that, I know that my daughter is present physically in the universe. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's something that I needed to know and something that brought me closer to God. And Islam is really the only religion that
Mm-hmm.
brings it all together. But you can be connected to God and be connected with the past, the present, and the future in a way that's very direct, and you don't need
Mm-hmm.
intermediary to tell me, you shouldn't look at this or that. It's simple, or this idol said this, so
Yeah,
um,
sure.
on the wrong path. You can have this direct relationship with God. You can be very confident about it, knowing that you don't need that intermediary there to have that direct connection and relationship that
Mm-hmm.
at this life, the past few years that I've really needed in a very deep way.
Yeah, it sounds like that this was a source of comfort because of such deep grief that you were in after losing your daughter.
Yes, it was very
So
comforting. It's still very comforting.
that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are a lot of different types of Muslims, and there are a lot of different types of people in the world, different types of Christians and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Hindu. And so, you reach spirituality in different ways, and some people present it better or worse. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm the best of any person or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which is
But
true. I mean, yeah, none of us are perfect, but then again, it's not a contest. We're each
no,
doing the best we can.
right,
Mm.
right. We are. We are.
Mhm.
I think,
So,
yeah,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was gonna say, did you have any interactions with Muslims as you were like learning about Islam?
I did. I started going to the masjid in New Orleans, and I met some people there, some sisters, and the imam who was a temporary imam at the time, I can't remember his name, but he was helpful to me because I had some disagreements with some of the sisters at the masjid, maybe because I was new or because they were more conservative. But it was good that I found a few friends there, and when I asked to speak with the imam, and he was able to reassure me that some of my concerns were valid, and that people do grow into their faith in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some ways that I express my faith and my religion that are obviously they're different from how other people express it and live it out. I think the main thing, though, to remember for me is that in a new environment is that sometimes talking and discussing is better than giving advice right away.
Sure. That makes sense. Sometimes people just need someone to listen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think exchange of ideas and this listening is kind of underrated sometimes. But
I agree.
found the community, the people who I've met, especially online. I've met a lot of people online because you can kind of filter too, like, oh, this person is more in agreement with this person, less.
That's a
And
good idea.
yeah,
But
uh,
unfortunately, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's okay. Unfortunately, I haven't found a community here yet where I am in Germany. But hopefully figure that out. I've emailed a few people, so hopefully I'll figure out where people here.
Oh yeah, inshallah. So, have you had any spiritual experiences in particular? I know you talked about metaphysics, but have you had any spiritual experiences that had impacted your conversion or reversion?
Just spiritual in the sense of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely had intense feelings of hope and joy and relief
Mm-hmm.
regarding it's taken off, and for example, in Catholicism, there is a lot of things you have to do, like you have to baptize and you have to find godparents and you have to, um, you know, put money in the basket and you have to do certain things certain ways. It was a relief to kind of let go of that and also to be active in the church community. I remember I was at the church and I said, I think God is telling me to step back or to step away from
Mm-hmm.
all this, from the expectations that they have. And as a woman, I think that was totally valid, but from their perspective, they just couldn't understand what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's been a deepening of my connection with God and also a deepening of my connection with how I want to live out my spirituality on a practical day-to-day basis, as a mom and a wife,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
woman. I feel like it fits me better.
Mm-hmm. How did your family take your conversion? You mentioned that they had a little confusion with it. It was a little difficult for them. But
Yeah,
tell me
yeah,
more.
I think everybody has been a little bit disappointed for the most part. My sisters and my husband in particular. My mother and father have been a little bit easier on me about it, which is good, but they're generally pretty easygoing people.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
good though.
Yeah, that, that has been good. And hopefully, um, I think change is always small. I don't think people can expect big changes from people, especially if they're not searching for it.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe if they're
mm-hmm,
searching to change bit by bit, and if they're not searching to change, it takes even longer. But hopefully, in time, more people in my life will open up to it, and maybe even
mm-hmm.
themselves, which I
So what
could
was
be.
it like? Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
What was that?
I was gonna say, tell me about the day that you converted. What was it planned? Where did it happen? Tell me about that. The day you converted
Yeah,
to Islam.
yeah. I think I had been, watching the Nasheeds on Merciful Servant, and I just realized this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be, and I felt an overflowing rush of joy and happiness, and I took my shahada and I put on a hijab, and I was at home alone at the time, but I was just so happy. It was a very, very blissful moment for me, a blissful evening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you took your shahada at home?
Yes,
Okay.
I took it home. I have not taken it at the masjid yet, but
Mm-hmm,
perhaps that
mm-hmm.
will
Oh
happen
yes.
soon.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think the shahada, it just, you can take it home by yourself. I mean, as God is your witness, I think He's the best witness of all. So so you were just watching the nasheed, so it wasn't really planned. You just, in that moment, you chose to take your shahada, which is beautiful. So
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
you're
It was
welcome.
a very happy day, and I got a
Yeah,
little elated because I was so happy about it, and then I realized, oh, everybody around me is not so happy about it.
sure. Yeah, that can be difficult
Yeah,
to have something so joyful at that moment, and I'm sure you wanted to share it with everybody. At least I would think so. When you find something so beautiful and wonderful, such as
yeah,
Islam. So yeah. Um, so you were talking about, so you had some, so when you first encountered Islam, I mean, was anything difficult for you? Like some of the new rituals? Was any like, you mentioned that there is some contradictions and conflicting interpretations and things like that. So what was that like for you at the beginning? Especially for someone who is, just learning about Islam. Um,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I um, I guess the way that women dress was a little bit difficult for me because I feel like I um, I dress pretty modestly,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm more modest the past 2 years. But in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult. Like I went to the mosque with the masjid with
Mm-hmm.
3/4 length baggy pants on, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought for sure that was long enough, and the women were certain no, that's not. And
Mm-hmm.
and my shirt, I felt like, oh, my shirt covers my bottom, but they
Mm-hmm.
said, you need some kind of jacket or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something even longer than what I had on. And
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit difficult at first because I was just starting. I was just going there, and I felt criticized right
Mm-hmm.
away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was a little bit difficult. I think there could be that sometimes I think not saying anything helps and letting people look and watch and find out for themselves over time. I think
Sure.
sometimes that goes a longer way than immediately advising somebody what they should do.
Sure. Sure. And yeah, you're right. You get a lot of advice at the very beginning. you know, which is it's well intentioned. I mean, that's the one thing that you have to that I remembered was it's well intentioned. Um, so, what kind of changes in your life occurred because of your reversion to Islam?
Well, it opened up a whole new rhythm to prayer life. You know, in the church, I think a lot of times you're guided to, maybe not intentionally, but you know, somewhat intentionally guided to think that you need the church to be able to pray, or you need to go there in order to get the kind of forgiveness or seal of approval that you need in order to move on in your life. There's always this intermediary there who's kind of saying, yeah, well, first come here and do this with, you know, this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so relieved that I could pray at home and I could seek forgiveness at home, and I could, or outside or in the car or wherever I was at the time, and I could always have that direct relationship with God without anyone acting like I should do it their way or with their stamp or with this ritual. So that was, it's been very freeing in some ways to
Wow, it
have
sounds like it. So.
these third parties kind of taken away.
Because you can go directly to God, which is a wonderful thing. Did you have
Yeah.
any? So that was kind of inner changes. Did you have like any outer changes? Did people notice anything different about you?
I think I've become more humble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so quick to judge, I guess. I think my ego inflated a little bit, which I think kind of an automatic when you're in this, or at least when you change from Christianity to Islam. I think when honestly, I think when you idolize, then the ego gets bigger, and when that's taken away, then the ego gets smaller, and you kind of think of things. You know, your ego becomes smaller, but your connection to God becomes greater.
Yes.
And I think people could notice that that I became a little bit quieter and more thoughtful, and really, instead of fearing people and the priest and the people around me, I was fearing God, and He was always present.
Sure, that makes sense. So, did you like get any new good habits? I mean, sometimes people, you know, when they come to Islam, they come up with some really new good habits that they hadn't had before, and sometimes they lose some of those bad habits. So.
Yeah, I think the daily prayer. I feel I always felt like I had to do that on Sunday, and or that's when I had to do it. So I think the prayer that I brought into my home, that I do with my sons who are going to grow into men one day, I want to be certain that they know that they can and should talk with God directly and really every day. So that's been a change. That's been in addition to the family that I think was missing before.
Yeah.
And then the way I dress has become more modest and more feminine. And my pride in what I do, you know, before I was like, well, you know, I'll be a mom until I can start working again, and then I'll be working again, and then I'll be a person again. And I think now I've kind of settled into my homemaker role in a different way where I'm proud about it. And I think at this point in my life with 3 young sons, it's more than enough for me. And I can be proud about who I am as a woman, which I think is easier than it is in, for example, in Christianity.
So, was it hard for you to learn how to pray? Was that something that was hard, or are you able to read the Quran?
Yes, I do read the Quran, and I have it as an app on my phone. So I just kind of pick a verse or a surah. randomly and read it that day.
Sure. Did you have any hard, I mean, since you were by yourself at home, did you have a hard time learning how to pray? How did you kind of approach the prayer?
I researched it online how I should pray. I also learned at the Majid how to pray. And I also received some books from a woman in Canada, and one of the books was an instruction book about prayer. So I guess I've learned in 3 different ways, from online books and from the Majid. But now I think there's a good rhythm to it, and I know how it looks and what my thoughts should be and what my intention should be during prayer.
That's wonderful. So prayer is my favorite thing, actually. It's one of the things that led me to Islam. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your conversion to Islam? Any advice you'd give people who are considering converting to Islam?
I guess my advice, I guess my advice would be to look at everything that's out there. Look at all the religions that are out there and what they're talking about and what they represent. And God speaks to people, through what we experience, what we learn. God calls people, and I think when people open their hearts and their minds to what's out there, then the truth comes to you. And I think that is a very truthful religion. Not sure that that any one religion is perfect, but Islam is the one that speaks to me the most strongly and brings the most faith and truth into my life.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for talking to me about your conversion to Islam. And it's a very beautiful story. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.